me getting to talk about this, this is like my joy, my thrill. So, konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
And when you're on the Kumano, excuse me, in the Wakayama prefecture, you have to say konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. There's a wa at the end of it. It's like Spain. You have different dialects, and you have different, gracias, gracias. You can be in Tokyo, and it's konnichiwa. But on the Kumano Kodo, people go konnichiwa. So I got that figured out. Hi there, my name is Roxanne Horgan. I'm a teacher up at Sacramento. I have done the 7 Caminos in Spain. I've done all the Caminos from tip to toe and everything. And about 5 years ago, I was walking the Camino and I stopped and started talking to this very sarcastic Australian woman. And I'm very sarcastic, so. And she was leading people, and I was like, who needs to be led from Sarria to Santiago? No offense, but. And she said, well, she and her partner, her best friend, run trips of the Kumano Kodo. And I was like, what's that? And for a year and a half, I just researched it, and I got super excited. And then in 2017, I took a sabbatical from my college, and I signed up with her and her best friend had this company, and they take groups to Japan in March and in November. And they run the Nakasendo Kisi Valley, which starts in Nagoya and goes up to Matsumoto, and then they do the Kumano Kodo. So in 2017, I went with them and spent all 4 weeks. I did back-to-back trips with them, and then loved Japan so much I ended up staying another 2 weeks. So this time last year, I went back and did the Kumano Kodo again, and I'm already signed up to do it in 2022 to coincide with the Spring Festival. What I thought is I have a very simple PowerPoint presentation just covering the basics, because I'm sure you're all going, what? And then I would love to spend some time explaining the photos I've chosen. And I would also welcome any questions along the way. You don't have to hold them at all. So let's see if I can do this. Doink. I don't know how to make that big.
It's big.
Oh!
It is big.
That's not what's on mine. That's so funny. Okay. All the pictures are mine. I took all these photos with my iPhone, by the way. None of these are photoshopped or taken from the internet. I recently kind of created a website to help. I take people on the Camino De Santiago every year. I just help people get there. So my website, and it's my childhood nickname, was Miss Chirp. And after about 20 minutes, you're going to understand why. That's my nickname. Okay, very basic. By the way, this is a snapshot of my Google Maps of everywhere I've been in Japan, my little hearts. So if you see Japan, here is Tokyo. You take the bullet train, very easy, to Osaka. And then you start down here, and this is the Wakayama prefecture down here. It's this, and right here, this archway is the Kumano Kodo. All right? Okay. So the bullet train is ridiculously easy. It's so you can go anywhere. It's only a 9 to 10 hour flight. Most people think of Japan and they go, oh, it's so far. It's closer than Spain to go to the Camino de Santiago, all right? And last time I went, the tailwind brought us back. We got back in 8 hours. I was like, no, I haven't finished my ramen. So doing the Kumano Kodo is immensely, it's easy to do in 10 days. You could easily fly over, do the Kumano Kodo, because it only takes 5 days, and get back. It's not a major expedition you have to do, okay? 2 weeks would be best, because with the 17-hour time difference, you land, you're a little for a couple of days. But, so it's immensely easy to do in 10 days, though 2 weeks would give you better timing. You can fly into Osaka, which is right here. It's a major airport, KIX, if any of you are really drilling down on this. The one thing to keep in mind is if they're having typhoons, which they do a lot, KIX is actually on landfill, so it sinks quite often. So 2 years ago, I don't know if you noticed it, like Japanese airport underwater, that was KIX, which makes it really cheap to fly into. So I flew into KIX, it's fine. I mean, just keep an eye, kind of, but you can easily fly into Tokyo and take a 1.5 hour bullet train to Osaka. It's ridiculously easy. Yes?
So the Shinkansens typically are fairly expensive. What did you find when you were buying flights? What did you find was cheaper, flying to Tokyo or Osaka?
It's definitely cheaper to fly into Osaka, without doubt. But you also, Japan has typhoons. And the first time I walked in 2017, we actually had to stop for a day because of typhoons. But the Japanese are incredibly cordial and gracious, and they were like, nope, no walk, you stay here, tuck it in, and like everyone's very aware. So I know I'm on these Japanese Kumano Kodo blogs, and I know last year there was a typhoon and people were upset because they couldn't get into KIX, and they tried to get to Tokyo. So KIX is definitely cheaper, but you risk it being underwater. And if you Google it, you'll see pictures of airplanes completely submerged, like water above the airplane. It seems impossible, but it's shocking. But it is cheaper. You're right, the Shinkansen.
Yes.
We're doing the economy version here. But the Shinkansen does have different, since you're familiar with the Shinkansen, which is a bullet train, does have various levels. There's like the cheap bullet train, and then there's the expensive bullet train. So there are bullet trains that have 2 or 3 stops, and those are actually a lot cheaper than the Nagano, which is the fastest bullet train. So if you look ahead, plan ahead, think ahead, email me, I'll help you. I love this stuff. But again, you can get straight, you want to start in Osaka. That's where you have to start. Was that me? No, I wasn't beeping. Okay, so this is actually just a nice close-up of what you're going to walk. This is where you end, where is it? Yeah, so this is where you end up here. You can you walk down. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said this. The Kumano Kodo is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Founded in the 9th century, it was originally an 1,000-kilometer pilgrimage that emperors and key officials in the country were required to walk as part of their politics and part of being a leader in society. The original 1,000 kilometers is now mostly overgrown. Only 5 days of walking are actually walkable. This is not the same as the 88 Shrine, if some of you are familiar with that. That is something different. I have looked into that. I'm not really interested in doing that, but I love this 5 days. So this is, the 5 day is the only part that's available, but it used to be 1,000 kilometers all over this prefecture down here. So just so you get an idea, the big fun torii gates, which you'll see later on, coming down here, coming down the ocean. Very quickly, those of you are familiar with accommodation on the Camino. I would personally recommend you book ahead. If you are on any of those websites that say, oh no, I didn't, I was fine, I don't believe those people. The Kumano Kodo has very limited resources along the way. You spend a long time walking, and then you get into, I discovered what a hamlet is. A hamlet, a small collection of houses, and you have to pre-book these places, as far as I'm concerned. There will be people who said, oh no, I didn't need to, but I'm not gonna travel all the way over there and not book ahead. Unlike the Camino, you don't have like bars and little towns along the way. You will walk, maybe have one place in the middle of the day that you could stop and get some food, and then you will stop in the evening for your onsen, dinner, and sleeping. I don't get any money from these people. I'm just telling you in all my experience. One is walkjapan.com. That is a self-guided tour. They will do all the bookings for you and then send you this very nice, thick, comprehensive book, kind of like a John Brierley guide.
Thank you.
And it has maps and it has detailed, I've seen it. It's extremely awesome. Oh, sorry. Another thing is, these are they are my friends. There's a lot of companies will take you over there. Okay, you can walk by yourself. You can easily walk this by yourself. Every time I've gone with my friends. It's a small group, 10 people. My friends, they live in Australia. They both speak Japanese. They always have like just so much fun. So I've always gone with them. If you're interested, they run 2 trips in March and 2 trips in October, November. But I just like having people who speak Japanese, and I've become friends with them, so I love them. Accommodations, you will stay in what are called ryokans.
Are you saying the second group, they'll book a group tour for you? Is it
Yes, so they have 2 set tours. You join them. So it's like maybe, I think it was like $1,500 for it's actually a 2-week tour. Because you go to Koyazan first, and then they have buses that take you down to the beginning of the Kumano Kodo. And it's a nice 2-week experience. They do all the bookings, so when you get into a village, there is your accommodation, the food, everything's ready. They both speak Japanese, so I just liked having everything. I would do it on my own these days, but my first time I'm all like, oh, I'm going to Japan. I'm like, oh. You stay in ryokans. They are tatami mat rooms. Typically, you'll see pictures later. This one is obviously made up, but when you walk into the room, there's your futon and your beds are usually rolled up in the closet, but your table has piping hot water and tea and little tiny biscuits for you waiting, and then you kneel down. As Westerners, we got really excited when we found tables with pits underneath them. We're like, yes! Because most time we didn't have chairs, so we got very excited when we didn't have to kneel or cross-legged ourselves. But this was my friends and mine, and then they, when you go into dinner, they come in and they roll out these really thick futons and these duvets, which are just like heaven. Their pillows suck. But you'll see a picture later of me. I actually bought a pillow because I couldn't. They love buckwheat pillows, so when you put your head on it, it's like, and you're like, what the heck? Eating and food, my favorite things in the world. Breakfast and dinners are always included in all the ryokans. So you wake up in the morning and you put your hiking clothes on, and then you go down and you have this fantastic prepared breakfast. When you get into your ryokan in the evening, you take your onsen, which I'll talk about in a second, put on your yukata, and then you will sit down to the most spectacular meal you've ever had in your life. There were 2 days on the Kumano Kodo where there wasn't a place to stop for lunch, and so the ryokans would give us a little box, a rice box. I need a lot more than 3 rice balls, so the first time I got set, I was like, 3 rice balls? I've just walked 20 miles. If you like rice, then that's the ticket. Me personally, and I know you Camino De Santiago people will laugh, but when I get into Osaka or I get in anywhere, I go to the supermarket and I buy cans of tuna. I am low blood sugar, so I need protein. Now I know on the Camino De Santiago, you're like, tuna? Seriously? Yeah. No, sin atun. But I carry big jars of nuts, meat bars, and they're kind of like thick jerky, and then I buy cans of tuna to carry with me. The rice crackers just don't cut it for me, and a lot of I need protein. So I carry that with me. If you have any dietary restrictions, you really need to think about this. People along the way, there's like, if you're 100% gluten-free, if it's really gonna make you sick, you really gotta be on top of things. You can ask for gluten-free. If you get it, you're not sure. And actually I put this down here because two of my dearest friends who I've hiked with on the Camino De Santiago just won't go to the Kumano Kodo because they're vegetarian and they don't eat fish. Now you're not gonna get bread and cheese in Japan. So that is another thing you have to consider. I have lots of photos of pictures of food. So you'll see it's primarily beef and fish. There is no bread, there is no cheese. So you would have to think about that. You would either bring a suitcase of your own food. If you could survive on rice, then that's awesome, but it is difficult.
Protein bars.
Protein bars, for sure, yes. Okay, big, important topic for me. Big. Okay. Coffee is starting to kind of find a place, but it's not mainstream. I was laughing because we were in this great little village and they said they had a coffee store, and I'm like, coffee store! Opens at noon. I'm standing in front of like, so, you know, what, the friends I've always traveled with, there's a couple of things. If you just need that cup of coffee in the morning, like me, don't fight me. First off, get Starbucks Vias. I just take Starbucks. The other thing is, if you hit any of the supermarkets in Japan, Origami Coffee, and I brought one, I just went to the Starbucks in Japan and got Origami Coffee, and this is what it looks like. It's actually really cool. I brought these to, so you just open them up,
There's the origami.
and then you carefully do this, and you put it over the top of your cup. Come on. There you go. And so I'm not going to tip it, but there's fresh grinds in there, and you put it on your cup, and it's a pour over.
Wow.
Okay, so all of us had very imaginative, awesome things to make up for the lack of coffee. This was, I put this picture in here because we got to one place and they're like, oh, we have coffee. And then we were all like, no, that's not coffee. They haven't quite, at the inns, no. So if you do need your coffee, I would highly recommend, just take Starbucks with you, or Starbucks are all over the major cities, and pick up the Origami Coffee. The stuff's, oh, sorry. Sorry, library. I'll do that later. Okay, so that's a big deal to me. So, oh, I mentioned here, have any of you been to Japan? All right, 7-Eleven. Who's your best friend? If you haven't been to Japan, you probably just went, what? 7-Eleven in Japan is like your best friend in the world. It's unlike our 7-Eleven. It's not the big gulp hot dog place. It's actually where you can get some really good food and freshly ground pour-over coffees and money. Yes, because you can't use the Japanese banks for ATMs. So it's really cash-based. So what you have to do is you go to the 7-Eleven or the Happy Family Mart. And those of you who have recently been to Daydream Believer, and it's like the ubiquitous song in all 7-Elevens. 24/7, really loud. Anyhow, 7-Eleven is your best friend, and many of them are open 24/7. So when you first land and you wake up at 3 in the morning with jet lag, just go out to the 7-Eleven. They're everywhere. Again, you get everything you need there. They also, if you also need milk for your travel, I'll show you a picture in a second. They have milk packets, and you just throw them in your backpack if you want milk with your coffee. But 7-Eleven, do not poo-poo it.
You can get cash in 7-Eleven, is that what you're saying? You can use an ATM card there?
Yes, so in Japan, they are really a cash-based, they have been a cash-based society for many years. Credit cards as sophisticated as the country is, credit cards are just starting to gain popularity, but even in society, they are cash-based. They do not, you cannot go to a Japanese bank and use an ATM. You can only use a foreign ATM, and those are only available at 7-Eleven or Happy Family Marts, which are just exactly like 7-Elevens. Credit cards, foreign credit cards, they are starting to use them a little bit more frequently, but foreign credit cards are still not readily accepted. In my research, it has to do with money laundering, yakuza, drugs. So they in the last 3 years, I've gone 4 times, and I found that I can use my credit card a little bit more, but still be prepared to use cash. And all you have to do is just pull out the cash.
So I have a question. So these organizations, let's say you want to do a self-guided one.
Yes.
But they're gonna somebody's setting up the what do you call them? Starts with an R?
Your ryokans, where you spend the night.
Where you spend the night, the ryokans. So then you pay through them and they're all paid for.
That's a great question. Yes, Walk Japan, you would sign up, pay them all the money, and then when you show up at the ryokans, you just have your dinner, you sleep, you leave in the morning, so everything is prepaid.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And they arrange luggage transfer, I mean.
Yes.
So that's,
So that's another thing about Japan. Their transportation system is unlike anything else in the world.
Yeah.
When I was on the plane last year, the entire plane was full of Amazonians, Amazon people, and they were going to study the transportation system in Japan. So in Japan, you don't travel with your suitcase, right? If you're going from Tokyo to Osaka, you send your bag ahead. You walk into the 7-Eleven, and you, Black Cat it's called, and you get your suitcase, and your suitcase gets sent ahead. Now that's just standard. I mean, people get on the train, they know you're a tourist because you're the one with like the Japanese are just getting on like, so in general, the transportation system for luggage is unparalleled. Like I said, half of Amazon was there looking at it, trying to sort it out. And that's one thing that the companies will do. Any company you sign up with to do this, like Walk Japan or the Kumano Camino, is you just walk with a day pack and your bag is sent ahead every day. But that's just standard. That's not like, ooh, that's not a Camino, right? But that's just standard in Japan. That they send, like, you dragging your big, they'll be like, what are you doing?
They don't, in Japan, do they have anything kind of like the octopus card in Hong Kong, you know, where you use it for transportation, you can also use it for retail? They don't have anything like that?
I don't know what the octopus card is.
Okay, it's
I'm
kind of like
thinking Pulpo.
it's kind of like a Clipper card,
Oh.
except you can also purchase things with it.
I honestly don't know. I know there is a card that you can use all of the different rail systems. It's
Yeah.
called the IC
Yeah.
something or other.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the octopus card.
Okay.
Well, the octopus card is
It's
Australian.
no, it's Hong Kong, but,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's kind of a transportation and retail, so I was wondering if maybe Japan has something.
I know there's one
That's
for
Hong Kong.
transportation, but I didn't know, you may be able to buy something with it? I didn't
Okay.
know.
Hong Kong.
Yeah. Okay. Onsens. Best thing ever. Now, some of you will freak out. You must be naked. You cannot wear a bathing suit. All
And
right?
is this part of an area that you come into when you're walking the,
Every home in Japan and every ryokan has an onsen.
okay.
And you're expected at the end of the day of walking, when you check into your
Yeah.
ryokan, you put your bag down, they give you a yukata, you put on your yukata, you walk out to the onsen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You can't go, nah, I'm fine. No. It is a culture and
Yeah.
tradition that you bathe before dinner,
Okay.
okay? Now, they range from, this is kind of dark, but you can see there's this beautiful stone right here, and that was the view that we're on top of the mountain. There are some of the ryokans, one ryokan, it was literally just a big barrel stuck halfway in the ground. So, and it was one person at a time. So you just walked in and you just kind of, you hunkered down, and then you kind of bathed, and then you got up. Some of them are usually maybe 2 or 3 people, and then if you go to the public onsens, they're the size of this room. I've been in a hot onsen the size of this room. Okay. First off, you may not wear a bathing suit. Don't just get over that part. Once you get over that, you love this thing. You're like you're walking and you're going, I'm first in the onsen tonight. The water, typically what happens, I have a picture later on showing you, all onsens here, there's coming out of the wall, there's a bunch of stools and there's like a hand shower. So what you do is you're naked, you get down on and you scrub yourself, you clean, you wash your hair, you wash your body, you soap off, then you stand up, then you get into the onsen. And it's natural hot water, so it's curative, it's cleansing. It's not don't get into the onsen and start scrubbing up, okay? So they are all single sex, they are not co-ed. I did mention this, that in private ones, if you have a tattoo, you'll be okay. If you decide to go to a public onsen, you will see big signs saying no tattoos, don't even think about it. They are very much against tattoos. So, if you have one, maybe take a patch with you. I mean, I love onsens. I go to the public ones, but they have clear signs saying if you have a tattoo, don't even think about it. Okay.
Do you know why that is?
What's that?
Do you know why that is?
The Yakuza, because who are the Japanese mafia, so that they are sleeved. So it's usually a symbol of gangs, and beautiful. Like you know, sometimes you see these guys, you're all like, I know I shouldn't be looking at you, but wow, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I had a friend who has a dolphin on the inside of her thigh, so she was always walking like this, kind of like, and she would get the onsen across her legs, and then she'd be all like, okay, I'm done. So you will be required to take an onsen every night. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. So just, I mean, there might be just 1 or 2 of you that scares you, but I mean, you should embrace it. It's the most amazing ritual I've ever gone through. I love it. Oh, and did I ever say they're the best things ever?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's a day look like on the trail? You wake up, pack up, have a nice breakfast, out the door, up, up, up. The trail, you are mostly in the mountains, in the woods the entire time. You're going up, up, up. And I'll show you some pictures here. If you've done the Norte or the Primitivo, then this will be familiar to you. No cafes, no people, no easy smooth trail. Many sections you really have to watch the ground. All right, you can't just be all like do 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 do. You got to head down. There's routes. It's untraveled. It's wonderful. Jizus along the way. So the little Jizus are little gods, and I have lots of pictures of them, and they are little remembrances of people who have died. Stop. And you'll see those along the way, just out in the middle of seemingly nowhere. You'll see this little tiny, beautiful Japanese statue with a little red coat and a little hat, a little warm hat on, and coins out in front. So you'll see lots of Jizus around the way. You get to your ryokan, immediate onsen. It's required, no ifs, ands, or buts. You slip it into your yukata. They always give you a yukata. And then you go to dinner in your yukata. And this couple was from Puerto Rico, and he was hysterical. Like, he just kind of always rocked his yukata. Like, most people kind of would get in there and be this, and he'd always be all like, you know, he'd be like, his chest would be open, his necklace was on, and he would always go like, he was like, the man's, like, you can just see, he doesn't even like, just cracked me up. So you slip into your yukata, enjoy hot tea and a biscuit at your duvet table. I'll have a picture of that. Wait for dinner, dine together, collapse into your futon under thick, thick duvets. This was Uonami. Our inn was over here, and we had crossed over a bridge, and this was a natural hot springs coming out of the ground. So that was me standing there. This was in 2017 when we were there last March. they had had a typhoon and a flood, and actually all these buildings were submerged. The water had come down this valley, and the inn that we stayed in 3 years ago and the one I stayed in last year, there was water damage all the way, everything was submerged. This whole valley was submerged.
Is there seasons for those? Like,
I would go in March, you're going next week or in March, and I wouldn't go any later than November. It's really hot in the summer. People go in the summer,
but
but
September.
September would be
September.
wonderful, yes.
What about April and cherry blossom time?
Oh, yes, yes. So cherry blossoms, when I was there last March, it was like cherries were just starting to come out, and it's a wonderful time to go, right before them, so that you can end up, and the spring festival is always April 15th, and that's like the pinnacle of cherry blossom awesomeness. I don't have a picture here, but in the train stations, they had all these charts, and it would say, they're on a scale of 1 to 4, all different places of where the cherry blossoms had exploded, and it was every day you could see like someone would go up there and move the sticker over, like, oh, they just opened up at the castle, and we'd all go running over to the castle, cherry blossoms.
Do they provide sandals for you?
Oh, yes, yes, they provide the slippers and the yukatas. So when you do getting started at the Pilgrim's office, this is me at the Pilgrim's office. You can see they date it for you. This is the traditional dress, man and woman. That's the American dress, that would be me. You can rent these and you can walk in them. And I put it on because I was super eager to do that, and then I was like, oh. So again, this is in the office. Your passport, as you can see here, this is the picture of, this is in the Pilgrims, it's the same map I showed you earlier. You get a passport, just like the Camino De Santiago, okay? On one side, you can put your Japanese, actually, this is the Japanese side. Where's the other one? There it is. So here are all my Japanese stamps. And then that same year, I went and did the Camino de Santiago. And this says Spain and this says Japan. So you, I'll show you, they have little huts where you stamp yourself. And if you look at each of these stamps, they're absolutely gorgeous. They're all wood cut, exquisite. When you get to the very end, you get your dual pilgrim, and you get these really cool pin. I've done it twice. But it's really exciting to be a dual pilgrim. You can do it in Spain and then finish in Japan, or you can start in Japan and finish in Spain, both ways.
In the same year?
Along the way, there are these little tiny boxes, and they have these little doors, and you open them up, and you just pull the stamp out, and you pull the ink pad, and you just stamp yourself. So there's the hotels, I mean, the ryokans don't do it, the bars don't do it. There's just these little boxes along the way.
I think somebody was asking, is a dual pilgrim, but you have to do it within the same year?
No, no.
Do you have to have your credential, like you have, like one side Spain, one side Japan?
No, so when the first time I did the Kumano Kodo in 2017, I just took my Compostela, my Camino's Compostela with me, and my Santiago passport, and the Japanese are very detailed, so it was a very official thing. Like, you go into the office and they're like, I'm like, really? It's a piece of paper? And then they fill out tons of paperwork, like they have file folders, and they take a picture of you, and then they have you sign something. I'm all like, wow, all right then. But you can see even like this cute little, here is a animal with a person on it, and here is your pilgrim. It's just gorgeous things. Oh, here's the gentleman. Here's me getting my, and here's the man who took 20 minutes to fill out the paperwork. And they have a great website, so once you get yours, you go up on their website, Dual Pilgrim. It's way cool. And then I did, in March last year, I did the Kumano Kodo, and then 2 months later, I went to Spain and did the Camino de Santiago. And in Santiago, you just go to the Pilgrim's office, and they're completely different. I'm all like, I showed them my Japanese, and they're like, yeah, okay, here you go. It's like, where's the ceremony? Don't I get a picture? And they're like, yeah. And it's not the Pilgrim's office. It's not the place you go to get your Compostela. It's actually the welcome home, the Pilgrim house, further up in Santiago. But yeah, they were all like, where is that binder? Where's that folder? Where's that Japanese thing? And you're like, okay. Here it was like a big thing. Now, also, when you do this, you get to go up to the shrine and you get to bang the taiko. Only dual pilgrims get to do that. And that's worth the entire experience.
So Roxanne,
Yes.
if you go with your Camino passport,
Yes.
they qualify as a dual pilgrim.
Yes, you just have to show them your Camino passport. That qualifies for sure. My friend went and she didn't have, so.
So she wasn't able to do that.
There you go.
How do I make this, oh, I don't know, whatever. Oh my God. Like everyone was lined up taking a picture of me and I'm all like, I was crying. I was totally crying at this point. And the priests were all around, you know, bowing their heads and you're supposed to whack it and I was just so scared.
Yeah, it's really a convincing whack.
Free bird!
How are the two related, the Santiago and the Kumano?
Okay, so in 2002, they were twinned. Stop that. They were twinned in 2002, and oh my gosh, how do I do this?
Escape.
Escape. Get off that one. Where is that picture? Well, let me just, they were twinned, so in 2012, so when you get to the end of the Kumano Kodo, there is a Camino de Santiago marker. Which says like 2,000 miles, just, you know, and you're like,
So do you need to actually bring your Compostela with you, or?
I did,
Yeah.
yes.
You have to show some proof.
So here I am channeling my Outlander, if you watch.
Is there a Japanese equivalent for sense?
Yeah, I'm like, I know you're over there. I don't know why I can't make this work. Aquarius, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way to save time here. So Aquarius is big there, and actually Guy was saying that it's actually a Japanese drink, and the Spanish people have kind of adopted it.
I knew it from Japan about 20 years ago, 25, so for me it started there.
Okay.
But that's just for me.
Well, so you Spanish, you know, Camino people, you're like, Aquarius! Yeah! This is the transportation truck. So we had just come out and they were there to pick up our luggage. So my friend Louise and I, you know, were like, take us, take us. And you can see the guy kind of going, get off. So my first trip in 2017, Louise, I met her then. We've become very dear friends since. She is a 6'6" nurse, trauma nurse from south coast of Australia, Melbourne. And I just have to share this story. Wherever you go, no matter what you do in Japan, they are just the most nicest, sweetest, polite, will do anything for you. They're, like I said, one year there was a typhoon. They were like, no, you must stay. You may not proceed. They're just very sweet and gentle and just amazing, amazing people. Well, one night we got into a ryokan and there was 7 women and 3 guys on the trip. And so and there was a big onsen. So the women went first. We went in, splashed, and stuff like that. Super mega hot, by the way. If I didn't mention that before, the onsen's almost ridiculously hot. So then we all put on our yukatas, and Louise and I, we were in we were in our ryokan, we were lying on our tatami mats and we were Facebooking or something, and our friend, and I was here by the door and Louise was over here in the corner, and then our friend Bunny comes running down the hall and she flings open the door and she says, our friend Orlando, one of the guys, Orlando is passed out, we think he's dead, where's the nurse? And so Louise, just like I said, remember she's 6'6", she's a big woman. She just pretty basically cartwheels out of the room over me and runs down the hallway to the onsen. Now we had leggings on and t-shirts, no bras, and our yukatas were open. We didn't have our obies on because we were lying in bed. So she goes flying down the hallway like this, you know, and I go running after her, and sure enough, Orlando had passed out a little too much plum wine and hot onsens, not a good idea.
No.
And Louise leaps into the onsen and starts getting mouth to mouth, and then I'm like, I'm gonna go get his wife. So I'm running down the hallway back, and again, no bra, flapping yukata, and then all of a sudden, so the ryokan had been owned by a family for 3 generations, and the very little old lady, she must have been about 95, and her daughter and her granddaughter ran it. I hear this, ay, and I turn around, I'm all like, what? And she's slapping me with a stick, and I'm all like, Jesus, what? Did Orlando die? And then she stops me, and then she goes, and she puts the obi on me, and then tightens me up, and so I'm like, okay. So then I run into Orlando's wife's room, and she's there sitting on her phone. I'm all like, oh my God, something's happened to Orlando, you gotta come. So she comes bolting out of her room, and she's got her sneakers on. No shoes in ryokans. So she's running down the hall, and the little old lady's like, ah! I'm tackling the little old lady, and she gets out there. And then the ambulance comes up, and I've never seen anything like this. So there's the entryway, and so the EMTs run in with this huge stretcher, and they're like, stop, flip off their shoes. So we get Orlando into the ambulance. Oh, they all run back. They're like, get him on the stretcher, and they run back and stop, put on flip-flops, get out. Well, meanwhile, Louise is like, oh, I'm going for this. I'm going in. So she gets in the ambulance. She's 6'6", big woman. And then our guides were like, oh, we're going. And then Orlando's wife was going. And so they had just filled the ambulance is tiny. And then the daughter and the granddaughter run out with warm baskets of warm rice balls for the trip. So they're like banging on the door, right? Here. And the EMTs are like, hey. And it was like the sweetest thing, and we're all like, oh. And the little old lady's just glaring at me. So it was a slow night at the hospital, and of course all of the Japanese doctors were thrilled to have this 6'6" Melbourneian, like, why? Moving everyone around, and still. She is one of the coolest people I've ever met. I just went down to her farm last month in Australia.
Did Orlando make it?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I would not have told that story.
Totally forgot about it.
I wouldn't have told that story. No, he was fine. He had a big egg on his head. He came back, and we call to this day we still call it the Orlando incident. This was a bathroom out in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere.
Oh,
And
nice.
it was, the weirdest thing about Japan is their obsession with heated electric toilet seats, which is phenomenal.
Nice.
So you open up that door and the seat would be like, zzz, it like blue light because it's sanitized and it's warm and it's slanted, and you have that little bar on the side so you can play white noise, and we would see these and we'd just be all like, in the middle of nowhere. This was awesome.
Really?
This was a typical breakfast. Every ryokan had their own specialty, the type of everything comes in little dishes. It's just a morsel. They just heaven in your mouth. It's just exquisite, but always these, and no dinner or breakfast was ever the same from place to place.
No Pilgrims.
That's Mount Fuji out in the back. We were, this was 2 years ago. This was November 15th in 2017. and they stopped there for our lunch.
We should go to
A lot of torii gates. This place actually had interesting yukatas. Normally they were all blue and white. This was a nice onsen. And here you can see the buckets and the spigots. This is very standard in all onsens. You'll see that. Please, when you go for your first onsen, clean yourself first. Don't just go walk in and get into the onsen. Then they're gonna have to drain it and scrub it.
Right.
And the water is always beautiful, crystal clear, because you cleanse yourself first. You've all heard of this. In the middle of absolutely nowhere, there will be a vending machine with hot coffee. Yes. Go for the Boss. Boss is the best. It's a brand. This was breakfast one morning.
Custard.
I know.
What is it?
So this is one of the walking trails. That's my friend up ahead of me. You can see it's.
Wow.
This is one of the beautiful torii gates. This is in Koyazon.
Oh.
They're so cute. This is in Koyazon. If you go do the Kumano Kodo, you definitely have to start in Koyazon. It's a temple city. There's over 150 shrines and temples in this town. It's where the monk Kobayashi founded Shingoism, and also where he is still praying 300 years later. He locked himself in his mausoleum, and he still prays to us to this day. And very ritualistic. It's an amazing place. Every morning the monks get up at 5 a.m. They prepare breakfast for him. You can follow them up and watch as they present breakfast to the doors of where he is still alive and praying for us. It's extreme. So they make breakfast and dinner for him every day. But I loved that, oh, so beautiful. This is in Koyazon.
It's sand.
So this is typical. You walk into your room, this is what you see. You're like, where's the beds? But there's hot coffee, there's hot tea, there's snacks and stuff like that. And then behind these doors, when you go to dinner, you come back and voila, your beds are all made. This was cross-legged.
Did you have breakfast there as well, the same place?
You never eat in your bedroom.
Right.
But
okay.
this was our breakfast place. So you go to another tatami mat
I see.
room, and they tell you, they're like, oh, it's time for breakfast. So then, as you can see, we all sat down and had our individual little trays of breakfast. This is just standard. This was nothing special I did. This is classic. You're going to experience this. All of you will on your everyday. We did the fire. I love going to the fire ceremonies. If any of you, if you get a chance to go see doing the fire ceremonies, which is traditional, the monk raises the fire up and then throws the prayers in, and a master of fire building. This is the graveyards, and so I'm walking and I bump into this girl and she has the exact same buff on.
Yeah. And you had it on because?
This was November, so it was cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was.
Roxanne?
Yes.
Being so close to the coast, is there a lot of rain?
It depends on the time of year. So when I went in November in 2017, yes, there was a lot of rain. 2 days it rained, and then there was a typhoon, and so we sheltered in place, and we were fine. When I went last March, there was no rain, but it was cold. It was cold. It was kind of like, it's cold here in the mornings now, but, now you're all like, layer up. This was touted as the best toilet with a view. Signs along the way. This is a view from one of our ryokans at night. That's the trail. Again, another view at night. And that's just all of us having our drinks on the outdoors, and then we came inside. They're very into having your drinks before dinner.
Can I ask you a
Yes.
question? Well, since I'm thinking of self-guided, what are the trail markers? Is it easy? Is it one trail and you can
It's
never get
one
lost?
trail. I don't want to say you can't get lost, because as soon as you say
You can
that.
probably get it on a map, but yeah.
there's only one trail. There's
Okay.
no, it's not, you never get
Alright.
somewhere and you're like,
Right, which way do I go?
and then there's signs the whole way, and they're all in English, Kumano
Oh,
Kodo. So, you can't really get lost.
Okay.
But as soon as I
Nice
say
to
that, you know.
Right. Wow.
So that's a view from our bedroom. That's your walking. So I love this sign. I am having trouble. In the meantime, cars of construction may pass. Thank you for your collaboration. I thought that looked like a frog. I just thought it's a stump. These are the jizus along the way, you'll see, our stamps. These little tiny hot things, they'll bring you a cerveza. And then you can put your hot feet in this those are a little hot water coming out of the earth. And these are like the tiniest little beers we'd ever seen. They were like this big. You like get one sip and you were done. This is a 33 jizus shrine, and we were super tired this day, so our guide was like, here's the 33 jizus. We're like, really? Are there 33? We're gonna count. And so we actually sat there because we were so punchy and tired. This was really funny. It was just in the random in the middle of nowhere. This was out there. There was sodas down here and lemonades, but this guy, it was freezing water was coming out of his penis. But we just thought that was like, okay then. Again, that's your trail. This was the box lunch one day. 3 little rice balls, boink, 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 fresh ginger, and seaweed wrap. So, you know, that didn't cover. This was a little just kind of kiosk on the side of the road. You could pick up anything you wanted, leave the money. The classic symbol of is the 3-legged crow, which I have tons of stuff up here with it. When you get to the top of the hill, you go down and see the biggest torii gate you've ever seen in your life. It's amazing. Oh, and here we are at the marker at the end, and it says, yeah, 2,000 miles to Camino de Santiago.
That's all?
Or something like that, I don't know. This is the spa town. These are natural waters. This town is awesome, but as long as you're not adverse to sulfur, because you're like, but as you can see here, there's this little box, and they have nets, and so in the morning we went down with our eggs, and we did 5-minute eggs, 7-minute eggs, yams, and then we just put them in our backpack and ate them that day. And that stuff's boiling water. So you can see right there, everyone puts their eggs in here. Oh, there's my coffee. So there they are, like that. Not only are they starting to have coffee in Japan, but they just go straight to like the most complicated way to make coffee. I'm like, you have heard of a pour over, right? This is cold infusion reversed, so it kind of bubbles up, and it's like it takes like 20 minutes. You're like, can I just have a shot before? But they do everything so exquisitely. So there I am on the ground. And then you pass the baton on. Now this is we have just got it, and here I am, I have found a Western style pillow. That's why I'm holding them. I'm like, I got a pillow! Yes?
How far are you walking each day?
Oh, that's a great question. We're walking about 6 or 7 hours a day, but I'm walking, it's a little bit slower, you know, probably anything from 15 to 20 kilometers. 20 would be the most any day, and that was probably like a long day.
Kilometers, how long?
Kilometers. This is the steps up to the shrine. As you can see, that was the hot springs that there was all.
And that one you can wear a bathing suit. So
Oh no, this wasn't an onsen. This was actually
A hot
natural
spring.
water coming out.
Oh.
And along, this is that river I showed you.
So it's good to bring a bathing suit.
It is definitely good to bring a bathing suit. And this river is really fun because this is the one where the town was submerged. But the water was cold, but they had little shovels here, so you could go down and you could shovel, and then this hot spring would pop up. So you'd be like surrounded by cold, but then right on top of a hot jet. More meals. See how beautiful this is?
Yeah.
They never just go, yeah, here, right? Everything is exquisite. This is dinner, lunch. And those were hot pots. They're really into so this is your meat platter, and then you would put it into the boiling hot pot right there. And there's Mr. Savoir-faire.
Roxanne,
Yeah?
can you give like an average cost per day that, or when you buy, what would you suggest for a budget at all?
Well, that's difficult because if you go ahead and pay for Walk Japan, then your luggage is transferred every day, your accommodation and food is paid for every day. So the daily things, there's nothing really to buy. I mean, in the middle of the day, you might stop at a place and get some ramen. Maybe that's maybe $5 to $10, depending on, I mean, it's not expensive. It's kind of like the Camino. They don't try to fleece you while you're walking it. And I say this, I know people laugh. I didn't think Japan was half as expensive as I thought it was going to be, but I was also in this section of Japan where it's not touristy. If you're down here, like a bowl of ramen was maybe 500 yen. That was $5. I never thought anything I bought was expensive, even with English conversion. I was never like, what? No. Even a cup of coffee was normal. I mean, I went to Australia last month.
Oh,
Coffee was $6 just for Japan. I had a great cup of coffee for like 200 yen. So I didn't spend much money because all the money was up front and paying for everything.
Do you know what the upfront cost is if you did the Walk Japan and they arranged everything for you? Do you know what?
Would you mind sharing? She's doing it next month.
Well, I did mine through Kumano Travel. They arranged my accommodations, and it depends on where you stay as well. You can pick a guest house, a nicer level ryokan. REI must have taken on the real nice ones because we're in the little guest houses, with shared bathrooms, but it's no more than 500 per person, so that includes breakfast, dinner, box lunches, luggage transfer. Actually, it's a little less because we aren't doing the boat ride.
So $500
$500
per person for the
upfront.
full 5 days.
Yeah.
Was it 5
Luggage
days?
transfer and for all the guidebooks. Is that about right?
That's
So
well-
it's a little less than $100 a
Yeah.
day.
So I paid, I think it was
that
like,
was a 5-day one.
I think around 1,000, but mine was the
Yeah.
2 weeks, and I was
That's-
doing the
yeah.
get into Osaka, and then we went to Koyazon, and then we took they arranged transfer over to the beginning of the Kumano Kodo, so yeah, I mean, it's
So
not terribly
It
expensive.
depends on where the price increases depending on if you're staying at a smaller guest house, somebody's home, versus at a lodge, versus there's hostels,
Yeah.
it depends on your.
I just wanted to point this out, this was a bathroom in the middle of nowhere with, heated toilet seats. This is really cool. This was a second day of our box lunch we got. It wasn't the 3 rice balls, but this is the way it was given to us when we left in the morning. They presented each one of us with these 2 beautiful banana-leafed wraps and handed to us, and then you open it up, and we had our traditional rice balls here with our ginger, and then a nice salad box, and each piece as you opened it, it was really beautiful. I really enjoyed that. And that was actually fish in there. There's salmon and mackerel in there and eel. It was beautiful. So this was just something, this is where we just sat down and ate. I took that picture. That's not photoshopped.
Beautiful.
Great picture.
But yeah, I mean the green, it's like this verdant green you've never seen before in your life. You're like, now I understand Celadon, right? I'm like,
Yeah, what
wow,
color is that?
this is a crazy, these were actually notes that were left, and it was Camino De Santiago Pilgrims. They're like, hola, Camino. That's your walking, some instances. There's one of my favorite little Jesus.
Were you walking with a guide?
I was walking with my friends who were guides. So we didn't really need them, but it was nice. It was kind of nice to be walking along with them. So when in 2017 there was a typhoon, the day before there was a typhoon, they are so efficient, they are so awesome in Japan, that the very next day they had already gone out and scouted and realized this was too dangerous. So they blocked it, and they created a diversion for us the day after the typhoon.
Wow.
Try that in like America, you know, like
Wanna fix that road?
it's still that same month, right? I mean, and they were exquisite, like they had been up in the morning, they had like cleaned a new path for us.
Wow.
So are there park rangers or something, or do you see people like in uniforms and rakes and?
They're just so, you know, efficient and wonderful.
So, if you don't have a guide and you're self-guided, you don't speak Japanese, but of course you have a phone, the translator, but you can get by, I assume.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
I found that people didn't speak, you know, people like, they speak English. No, they don't. Not half as much as you think. But practically every sign in Japan is in
Okay.
translation. And like you said, Google Translate.
Right, exactly. I mean,
So,
I use,
the-
and there's even ones that are specific to Japanese English even, that it's not Google, but a separate app.
Yes, and if, you know that you can hold up Google, you guys know how you can hold
Yeah.
Google Translate up to writing?
Right.
It doesn't quite work in Japan.
Ah.
You get some strange translations, but you get the gist. It'll say blowfish or milk of eel.
Right.
There were some really strange things. But I do wanna, I'm glad you're,
Yeah, no, I'd like to see that.
there is this new thing, and I'm sure all of you know this because you are all very well-traveled people. This is a new thing that came out last year, and I went to Japan last year for New Year's, and this thing was the bomb. They had just come out with this. So this is just Google Translate that you can hold up to a piece of writing, but this is their newest thing they've added.
Is that an 11?
Hi there, where is the nearest 7-Eleven?
こんにちは。一番近いセブンイレブンはどこですか?
Oh, wow.
And they can talk into your phone and it translates to English. That's a new thing. And even the Japanese, so I got stuck at a train station. I owed money, but I couldn't understand. I was trying to get out, and she's like, So she did this, and she told me, and I'm all like, oh, and I told her back, and we laughed and we high-fived. And she even said, the Japanese is really good. So that's a Google Translate.
Good to know.
This is the very end. This is the famous pagoda and that waterfall in the back that you see in so many pictures. That's the very last day you end, and you're just crying when you see that. And there we are under the torii gate. Those are the packets of milk. If you're a milk person, they do have non-homogenized milk, and so you can carry that in your backpack. Doesn't need refrigeration. This is really funny. I know we're running out of time. So these are the rooms where, if you can just see it, this table, see there's like a comforter here? So this was just back in March, and these comforters, they're attached to the table, and there's a radiator under the table. So what you do is you park yourself up, cross-legged, pull the comforter, and then you're all like toasty warm underneath. So, and all our rooms were connected. So here we were, we had just arrived, we were having our tea and scones, or biscuits. But this was the greatest thing ever. Whoever came up with that invention, that was so awesome. And so here we are, just, we were really cold that day. Just like the Camino. Here's our little happy. They're always freshly tailored. They're all, we did sumo. We went to sumo one night. We got a chance to see it in Osaka. That's in Koyazan. This is a rock along the way that if you crawl through it, you will have easy birth in your future. I am way past that point, so I didn't see the need to crawl through this. But my friends all felt the need. You go in from one side and you come out this side, and I'm like, hell no. So actually one day that was an egg they put in a cup for me because I needed protein. I thought that was funny. Oh, this is great. Look at that. That's orange.
Wow.
And there's chicken soup in there. One night, with our group, they arranged for taiko drumming. So they took us to this local place, and we did professional taiko keeping our jizus warm, it's very important. By the way, if you get donbari chicken, oh my god, that's the best chicken in the entire face of the planet. It's like triple fried, and they use potato starch on it, and it's like, And here we are cheering at the Camino De Santiago. Oh, there's my friends and the triple Riacon. Bathrooms, you get really excited about those bathrooms. And actually, this is my friend took this of me. We had just climbed this mountain. I was sitting there, and actually, I love this photo because he took this picture of me, and I'm actually sobbing. I am like so tired. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm so tired. God, that trail went on forever. I look very contemplative. And I'm just sitting there like, and then my friend Dallas took this photo, and I'm all like, wow, I look so good. Those are the cherry blossoms.
Wow.
That was March, going through a tunnel. My friend Greg. This was a really cold day and a really long day, and so we just all died.
So was this November or March?
This was March last year. And we were just, it was a gray overcast. That's the very end.
How cold is it?
It was about, I think it was like 45 that day. These two boys, I put them in here. They, oh my God, they were so funny. There are two brothers from England. The first day we saw them, they had T-shirts that said "Yay Jesus" on them, and they were the most unprepared hikers we've ever seen. Like they had no reservations. They had a food bag which they left on a bus, but they were like "Yay Jesus!" So we Googled, and it's a church in Texas run by a guy named Todd, and Todd is an ex-alcoholic junkie criminal who has now found God, and so. These guys, I mean, they were so sweet, and they're like, well, God will provide. We're like, well, you really got to help God. But then my friend pointed out that we were giving them our food, and we were like helping them. They were like, okay. They were the sweetest, nicest guys, but like, yay Jesus. We just love these kids. They were so adorable. And this is our very last night, our last dinner. Oh, now the two of us are channeling the stone Outlander. So that is, I'm over time, I'm so sorry. I have things up here if you want to come look at them. But anyhow, any questions?